warroomsports.com. Get that mobile app.
Hey, sports fans, that's right. It's the General B. Austin War Room Sports. They let me be the hostess with the mostest tonight, and we're back at you with another edition of Court Vision. Got a really exciting show for you this evening. We're talking the trades at the NBA deadline. We're talking the Chris Bosh situation down in Miami. We're talking Melo shutting it down. And then, of course, yes, old Grumpy, Mr. Kobe Bryant himself gave a candid interview with Ahmad Rashad, and we'll dive into that. And, of course, a few of the remnants of the All-Star game or whatever. So, yes, it's the Sports Kings in conjunction with War Room Sports, and I'm here with Andy.
We got all guards tonight, man. I mean, we may not be our strong starting five, but we're shooting the rock all day.
Man, who needs big men in today's league? We've got Frank.
You know, this 2015 is the year B. Austin got his own show and Langston Galloway got his own team. What more do you want?
Yes. Folks, so let's just jump right into it. Andy, let's talk some of these major trades. You've got them listed here. The first one that we'll talk about is...
So we got the Miami Heat and the Phoenix Suns, obviously. Goran Dragic making his way to the Miami Heat in lieu of Danny Granger, John Salmons, and a couple of first-round picks. Frank's itching to correct me on the way I pronounce that name.
Goran Dragic.
I can't. My mouth doesn't do it. It won't work.
Doesn't he have a brother that was in that trade as well, Zoran? Why is mom so lazy?
He pulled the Steph Curry. Yeah. Goran pulled the Steph Curry. He got his brother a job too. He said, "Yeah, you gotta bring the family along. I'm not going alone."
Their mom was lazy too. Steph and Seth. Come on.
Steph and Seth. Probably the worst part of that trade is brother Zoran traveling along with him, because Goran was acting like he wasn't real secure in Phoenix, and how much more secure does it get than them giving your bum brother a job?
Yeah, that's true. The part I liked, it did break up the Suns, because the Suns got the Morris twins and they had the Dragic. They could have had like four brothers. All they needed was like another sibling, and then they could have had a whole lineup. They could have just started
Plumlees or whatever. Could have got them involved.
They could have got a couple Plumlees.
Right. I like this trade on paper. I liked it on paper for the Heat because when you look at the lineup on paper, you've got Goran starting. You've got Dwayne Wade, who on any given night can rekindle the flames of past. Although he isn't what he once was, he's still not what I would consider out of his prime or over the hill. Luol Deng, who is grossly underrated. Excuse me, Luol. You would have had Chris Bosh, and then you have the emerging Hassan Whiteside. Guys, that's a heck of a starting lineup that they were able to put together on paper. Now, we'll get into Chris Bosh and his situation a little later on in the show. But talk to me a little bit about that lineup and what it means and for the shifting of power and balance in the East.
I like the trade for both sides. I thought that the Suns got an incredible return for Dragic, who basically pulled the Dwight Howard and told the whole world he was leaving, and they still got probably more than the Magic got for Dwight Howard, to be honest. I think a much better deal than the Magic got for Dwight Howard. And I like the trade, like you're saying. The thing that's curious to me about the trade is I wonder if the Heat knew that if they were losing Bosh for the season, do they still make that trade, or do they kind of try and go the other way, shut Wade down for the season, maybe trade Luol Deng, who knows, and try and go the other way because they do own their pick this season, but obviously they didn't know this at the time. Obviously, get well to Chris Bosh, and we will talk about that soon, but that would have been a very dangerous. That starting five is a contender in the East. I mean, you can't tell me that it wouldn't be. That starting five can compete with any team in the Eastern Conference right now, and it's just unfortunate we won't see it come into fruition yet.
Yeah, well, something catastrophic would have to happen for them to not make the playoffs. It's going to hurt without Bosh, but
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that catastrophic. If Wade only plays 15 of the 30 games they have remaining, they can very easily.
It still might need to be kind of catastrophic. I mean, look at the East is still the East, and
but I mean the Celtics improved, the Pistons improved, so they're both going to be in that race. And I mean, who knows? I mean, it's going to be two bad teams. I mean, I'll tell you that much. But
it's going to be.
I hear you, Frank. I kind of Andy. I agree with you. I think that it's going to have to be something pretty serious to keep the Heat out. But I kind of hear where you're coming from, Frank, because it's like, okay, well, no one in the East is good. You being a playoff team doesn't really mean you're good in the East. If you're under the number 4 seed, you still can be some Dookie Pun trash. And I think that I don't know. I think the Heat are underrated. I could see the Heat with a starting lineup, even minus Christina, giving a team like the Wizards a run for their money. Like the Wizards are kind of considered a shoe-in for that 4th and 5th spot, and people talk about the Wizards like they are a good team. And I'm partly in belief of that, partly not. All of our DC fans are going to say I'm hating, but in reality, I really love John Wall's game. I love Bradley Beal. I've been PSP, hashtag Philly support Philly. Rasul Butler having a career resurgence, although within the last 10 games he hasn't been able to hit the side of a barn, standing 5 feet of it with a shotgun. But, I mean, I like that team, but I'm just not convinced. And I could see the Heat beating a team like that. I can see
they
beating.
Bosh. They're going to be missing Bosh, but I mean, obviously, it's goes without saying. But
well, I mean, it's the biggest drop off on their team. You know what I mean? They
but if you bring in Goran, I'm a little. I'm kind of messed up on the Dragic's thing because it's like, has Wade ever played with a real good point guard before? I've never.
And
I mean, Norris Cole.
I mean, if you consider LeBron James a point guard, then I guess
that's a good point. That's a good point.
No, it is. But I mean, it's a weird fit, and this is a move for now because. Despite that Dragic has only been good the last, couple of seasons, we've seen him emerge. The guy's almost 29 years old at this point. That's pretty
that's true too. And it's one hell of a. They must have great confidence, even though the report came out that the Heat were one of the teams he would resign with. But Dragic, he can walk too after this season if things go south.
It could be a rental.
It could be, and that's a lot. They gave up a lot. They gave up 2 first-round picks. I mean,
first-round picks. Yeah.
The challenge.
I like it.
The challenge I see there for them, we talk about their starting lineup being strong on paper. We talk about missing Bosh, which is a big blow to the Heat. Bench wise, they're going to struggle. I mean, Shabazz Napier will one day be what I believe is an okay professional player in the NBA. I don't see him as an all-star, but he'll be a solution at point guard for somebody, whether it's the Heat or not, we don't know. Udonis Haslem, they still rely heavily on him, which they should not. And bench-wise, what else do they have going on?
Mario Chalmers is probably their 6th man right now, and that's really all you need to know about their bench.
Ooh.
Yeah, the bench is no better than it was when it's probably worse than when LeBron was there.
Right.
Obviously not as good 1 through 5 without LeBron. So yeah, it's tough.
Right. What's the next trade, Andy? We got to go to the telestrator and point out the next trade for the viewers.
The next trade is the Detroit Pistons got Reggie Jackson, who started out 0 for 4 tonight. I think that was in the first half. But then Oklahoma City got Enes Kanter, which is big. They got Steve Novak, who nobody's talked about him in years. They got DJ Augustine and Kyle Singler, while the Jazz got Grant Jarrett. I don't even know who that is. Kendrick Perkins' corpse. The rights to some center, and then they got a 2017 second-round pick from the Pistons and a future first-round pick from the Thunder, which isn't going to be anything special for at least the next 5 or 6 years, I'd imagine.
I had a question. Why would Detroit give up DJ Augustine with Brandon Jennings presumably out for a lengthy period of time, if not the rest of the season?
They're going on the philosophy that they want Reggie Jackson to be their starting point guard. I think Brandon Jennings and Detroit are numbered. I mean, I think that was the whole thing with Reggie Jackson is he didn't want to be in OKC because he could never. Obviously, he's never surpassing Westbrook, so he needs to get out of there if he wants to start somewhere else. I mean, and Jennings is out for the rest of the season, obviously, and I think he's only got 1 more year on his deal. After I think next season is the last year.
I think Van Gundy came in and kind of cleaned house anyway with the Smith move, and now it's like maybe a Brandon Jennings move is close. So
okay,
I mean, I love this deal for the OKC Thunder. I thought they redid their whole bench in one transaction. They got rid of Reggie Jackson, who wanted to leave, who was gone anyways, and they basically just got their whole bench. They have their 6 through 9 man now, which they did not have before this. I mean, they had Nick Collison, who was probably their best bench player before this trade.
Glue
Well,
guy, glue guy.
That's scary, and that's why I asked, because to go in the other direction, the OKC Thunder made out like bandits on the straight. Like they came up fiercely.
Right. This season, I'm not sure how much worse DJ Augustine is than Reggie Jackson. I mean, DJ Augustine has played extremely well.
No, he's not a bad player. He's not a bad player.
I mean, I think DJ Augustine can give you 90% of what Reggie Jackson gave you, and then you got 3 other guys in the trade too. So I mean, where do you go wrong?
Agreed. So
players. I mean, it's been a decent season.
So is Enes Kanter going to end up being what people thought he was going to be coming into the league, and is OKC the place? And even before you answer that, I would just like to say that Serge Ibaka, you should be ashamed of yourself, the way that you carry yourself. So you get the JoJo Award for being 6'10", super African, super athletic, and wanting to shoot 3-pointers, because Enes Kanter could take your job. I believe Enes Kanter could take his job.
The thing I like about Kanter is they don't have a guy who gets his own baskets in the paint, and Kanter can do that because he has the back-to-the-basket game, and I think OKC is a good place for him because there's not a lot of pressure on him to score night in and night out, but they can, in a playoff series, rely on him for some buckets when they're, look at last year when they were playing the Grizzlies and Reggie Jackson had to take over a game. I think you can do that throughout the game a little more with a guy like Kanter in there and give your guys rest.
Andy, Enes Kanter has been a grown-ass man since puberty.
Yeah, he looks about. He's got that LeBron thing going where he looks about 45, even though he looks 23. But I just want to shout out Serge Ibaka. He could easily be in this all-guard rotation that we have, even though he's 6'10".
And can't dribble.
And I also want to shout out my Brooklyn Nets, who looked like they were going to be getting Reggie Jackson until about 15 minutes before the deadline, but then somehow it comes back to bite them that Enes Kanter, part of the Darren Williams trade, which is now a complete disaster, turns out to be the piece that makes them not get Reggie Jackson in the most Nets way possible.
Andy, let Frank get a few more seconds here on Brooklyn in a rest in peace part of the segment, because obviously he and I really aren't talking about winning basketball this season. I'm just here to complain. Shout out to
neither am I, man.
Shout out to Isaiah Cannon, who's getting like 40 minutes a game now on your Sixers, and he was in like the D League like 2 weeks ago. Sam Hinkie is in the tanking Hall of Fame first ballot.
That's not even called tanking anymore. He just traded.
It's called hinkying. They just called it hinkying. What are you doing?
I think he sits in his office and laughs his ass off like this is.
He's just gonna have like the award. The tanking award just gonna be named after Sam Hinkie. Even though I'm irrationally excited about Thaddeus Young, he's one of my favorite players to watch. I'm glad the Nets have him. But I love the trade for the Thunder, and I like the trade for the Pistons too. Even though I don't know Reggie Jackson as a starting point guard as like the key, give him the keys to your team. I don't know how well that's going to work. I mean, I don't think anybody knows it. I mean, many people said the same thing about James Harden when he got traded, so who knows? But
no.
Harden had a lot more upside.
James Harden,
I totally agree. No, I totally agree with you, because Reggie Jackson, in his job in OKC, is a poor man's Russell Westbrook. So he's not a creator and really a playmaker in the traditional sense of a point guard. So what is it that you're really getting?
Right. And that Pistons team could use a true point guard. You put Rajon Rondo on that team with Greg Monroe and Andre Drummond pick and rolls all day, forget about it. That team would be ridiculous.
Went into the playoffs when they figured out they have no exterior shooting. But
this just in, they won tonight, and Jackson had 17, 5, and 5. So he started out kind of rough.
He can score. He's extremely athletic. I mean, he's ridiculous. He's a ridiculous athlete. But I just don't know how well it's going to work long term.
He definitely can score. Andy, what's our next trade as you go to the telestrator?
Our next big trade was the Suns' three-way trade with the Milwaukee Bucks and your 76ers, although Philly didn't get any players out of this. It was Brandon Knight and Kendall Marshall went to the Suns. Michael Carter Williams, and I don't know what's going on. And then Tyler Ennis and Miles Plumlee went to the Bucks. And then the Sixers got a first-round pick from the Lakers. So they're just collecting. This is a really good trade for the Bucks, is it not?
I actually hate the trade for the Bucks.
For the Bucks, really?
As we all know, I am driving the Michael Carter Williams hate train for some reason. Even though I don't mind him, but every time I feel like I'm always trashing him for some reason. But I don't. You can never convince me that Michael Carter Williams is even close to the player that Brandon Knight is. I mean, I think Brandon Knight is clearly a better player than Michael Carter Williams. I don't know if Michael Carter Williams will ever be as good as Brandon Knight is right now.
I think they're really close players. I think they're similar in a lot of ways.
I mean, Plumlee's a good piece. I mean, who knows what Tyler Ennis could be, but I hate the trade for the Bucks. I don't think that Michael Carter Williams is the point guard that Jason Kidd wants. You know what I mean? He's not. I don't see a lot of Jason Kidd and Michael Carter Williams.
If Michael Carter Williams ever watches Court Vision, which we believe he does, I mean, it's on site with you, Frank. It's on
that's
site.
True.
He's got to swing.
Yeah, B. Austin, I haven't unbooked my 2019 ticket to Turkey for him. You know, I said when he got to the league, I said he's going to be in the Euro League by 2019. I'm not ready to unbook it. You know, I might try to ask for my deposit back, but I'm not ready to just completely unbook it.
Andy, what are your thoughts on that side of the trade? The Bucks, the resulting situation for the Bucks, and we don't have to talk about my Sixers. We know what they got. We got a hanky. What are your thoughts? I mean,
admittedly, I kind of like the trade. I mean, I don't dislike the trade for Phoenix. I think Frank and I talked about this briefly on social media, but Brandon Knight and Eric Bledsoe has something I think that people love and people hate, because I think it'll be exciting to, you know, strong athletic wing or guards, point guards playing but they're not. I don't know that they're going to mash, and neither of them are particularly great jump shooters. But I mean, it's exciting if nothing less. And I think as far as Milwaukee goes, I do like them getting the Michael Carter Williams thing for Brandon Knight, as far as I'm concerned, is kind of a wash. But I do like the Miles Plumlee, and the prospect of Tyler Ennis could be good. I don't know. Again, I don't think Milwaukee's to the point where they were going to win a championship anyways, so they can afford to tinker with pieces. And Brandon Knight's not your championship point guard. Maybe Michael Carter Williams isn't either.
The one thing I will say about the Bucks is that next year, when they get Parker healthy, their defense is just going to be. I mean, their length is just ridiculous. I mean, Michael Carter Williams obviously is like a 6'7" point guard, and then you just have all this length on defense, and they already had that.
Guys, Frankie, I really think that you're doing MCW a disservice. I for one, was very close to burning this jacket and this hat when we got rid of MCW, because my belief is Embiid, you're praying and you're hoping, has some way, I mean, somehow Kareem Abdul-Jabbar might have smacked his mom back in the day, and so we're just hoping in some way that Embiid is really that dude, and MCW would have been a perfect point guard to pair with that. Nerlens Noel cannot play basketball, so he's athletic. You can teach him to play D. I don't see him. But those two pieces,
he's very raw offensively.
Were fundamentally, when we got rid of MCW, it hurt. I see him as a poor and not so poor Jason Kidd. He's a big guard. He's 6'6". Plays.
A lot of people.
The stat line's there.
I see it from that perspective.
His stat line is ridiculous. He plays D. Let's face it. If you can't shoot a jumper, what else are you going to do in the league? You got to play D, and you got to get to the rack because people are backing up. So he does those two things, and he's a decent passer. He's a decent to above average playmaker even at this stage in his career. I feel like playing for a guy like Jason Kidd, if they're able to make, the light skin New Jack Swing connection, they could end up being, he could learn from Jason Kidd, and we could see something scary. It's a scary time. It's the age of point guards. Age of point guards. Brandon Knight is a better shooter. That ain't hard to be in here, but still, he's a better shooter than both Bledsoe and MCW. Not really consistent, but enough so that you can say, all right, you've got a more polished shooter in Brandon Knight. Neither one of those dudes create. They've got to get someone on the Phoenix Suns that moves the ball and makes baskets happen via passing.
And that might be it. Jason Kidd might have thought, hey, Brandon Knight is a scorer. MCW can be more of the passer, and
I don't doubt
what he wants. I don't know.
I don't doubt at all that that's the motivation for the trade. Actually, to be honest, I don't know if Austin might laugh at this. I don't mind that trade for the Sixers. I mean, I think if you're not high on MCW, this is a sell high moment. He won Rookie of the Year. People like MCW as a player. So if you don't like MCW as much as other people do, it's a great sell high moment. Get a great first round pick. You know, it's a very good first round pick that they got for him. The only problem for the Sixers is that, I mean, and I don't claim to be a draft expert by any means, but it's a very top-heavy and big-man draft from all the people that I do trust that talk about the draft. And if you already have Noel and Embiid, then that doesn't really help you when you have 8 picks in this draft and they're all big men that you're choosing from.
That's what I was going to say. They painted themselves into a corner now because if they draft a guard,
Thanks, guys.
Specifically a point guard, if he's not as good as Michael Carter-Williams, then the fan base is going to like.
They're going to be the opposite of. They're going to be the opposite of this court vision. They're just going to be throwing out like 5 centers and.
Yeah.
There's no point guards of MCW's quality in the draft in the next 2 years that I see.
Right, I mean, the flip side to it is that if you have 4 first-round picks this draft, I mean, it has to work out as far as like the lottery and everything. But you know, if guys need a big man, you can get a blue chip prospect with 4 first-round picks in one draft. I mean, you could trade 3 of those picks if you wanted to, if you loved. I mean, I don't know offhand, but say you love. You say you want to take a gamble and get Chris Paul, let's just say, out of the blue. Right. You might be leaving the Clippers or whatever. You could here Clippers take 3 first-round picks and give us Chris Paul.
How scary are the Bucks and how scary are the Bucks coming out of this in a year or 2?
They could be. I mean, it all depends on MCW obviously, and then you want to get Jabari Parker back, and you want to teach Giannis how to actually play basketball because
because he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't.
He does not know. You know who he reminds me of? It's actually a weird comparison, but
perimeter Nerlens Noel.
Same way in Toronto. If you ever watch James Johnson play in Toronto, is they just get the ball, they don't know what else to do, so they just go to the rim and just hope for the best. That's all he does.
That's actually better. That's like what you want, but it's like they're so raw. Dude doesn't know what he's doing out there. He's good. He's just good by accident. He's accidental.
Right. And he's got such length that it works for him because he can take 2. He takes 2 steps and he's from the 3-point line. He's all the way to the rim because he's just so long. But I mean, they can be great, and specifically defensively, they can be a very scary team defensively because they're just going to get deflections all game.
Frank, we got to move on to the next trade. Do we have how many more do we have, Andy?
I think we're good with the trades. I think Andy froze on us here, but those are the 3 trades we were going to do. We can move on to we can talk about Melo shutting it down.
We got to talk about Melo shutting it down. I'm going to defer to you to begin this, Frank, as the resident Brooklyn Nets fan. So you're scouting the enemy here. What's the deal with Melo? Whose decision was it? Who motivated this? Why is Melo quitting?
All right,
I'm gonna say quitting because he can.
I'm just gonna hit you with just some simple facts, and then I'll let the viewers decide for themselves. Carmelo Anthony was apparently healthy enough to play in a meaningless All-Star game
and get 20 shots.
Just 2 days before and take 20 shots, and then all of a sudden 2 days later, he's not healthy enough to play actual meaningful basketball games. So I don't know whose decision you think that is. I mean, he did legitimately have knee surgery, so it's not like he's just like resting it like, oh, I got a bum ankle and sprained and I mean, he did have knee surgery, so there is some legitimacy to his injury, which he's been playing through all season, but somehow has now decided that tonight's not the night, even though, I feel like if the Knicks were in contention in any form or fashion, that maybe the decision would be a little different. But to be honest, I mean, I think it's a smart decision. I don't knock. I really don't like tanking per se, but I mean, if you don't have hopes for the playoffs and you want to get Melo healthy, then just say, go get your knee surgery early so you don't got to recover during the off season. Well, quicken the recovery time here, and then. The Knicks do own their pick in the draft. They'll have plenty of cap room this summer. I mean, the Knicks have potential. I know a lot of people think it's all doom and gloom for the Knicks, but as a Net fan, I honestly think that the Knicks have a brighter future. Not to say that it is bright, but a brighter future than say the Nets have or other teams have because they do have possibilities for the future.
Sure. No, I totally get where you're coming from with that because the Knicks. I mean, they have. Hardaway, they have Melo, they have Lampkin, they've got some pieces. The Nets are old. And that's all I'll say about it. The Nets are old and very well paid. Andy, we're talking about Melo shutting it down. Where did that come from? Who motivated that? Basically, is it corny for the fans because they're paying their hard-earned money to come and see Carmelo Anthony play basketball versus Prigioni? I mean,
now Langston Galloway is going to be putting up 25 shots a game. That's what you could have got MSG for, the Langston Galloway show.
Langston Galloway.
He froze again.
Oh,
so,
man.
Be awesome. What is your opinion on this situation here?
At first, I was I took a really anti-Melo position on this because it felt like to me that it was him. You're willing to go out. You're willing to play in the All-Star game. You really should have Willis Reeded it. Came out, said hi, kissed some babies, pressed palm to palm, took 3 shots, got you a layup, a jumper, and then went and sat down or left and went and got Lala to rub on your knee. Instead, you proceeded to go out there and try and go shot for shot with Russell Westbrook, end up taking 20 shots and only hitting 6. On 20 shots, you can score 50 points. So, like, you were getting it up. Pause. Like, there's no now. All that being said, I'm hearing that it actually was the organization that wanted him to shut it down and not Melo. Melo was cool with playing it out and dealing with the knee in the summer because he felt like it can't get any worse unless there's some true stress or trauma to it via another major catastrophe or injury. And I think that's the way the Knicks organization looked at it. They said, look, we don't want to risk your knee to permanent damage. We've got a lot invested in you. We're getting rid of standing tall and untalented, and let's shut it down, Mel.
It makes sense. It makes sense that it's an organizational decision because, like you said, you get rid of Stat. They're just in complete tank. I mean, have you seen the Knicks starting 5 right now is a D-League team? There is not one. There's not one guy in the starting lineup right now that you foresee on the roster in 2 years, or even close to being a piece to the future.
Yeah, it's ugly. It's ugly.
I mean, they traded Prigioni, who is a reputable player. They traded him, I believe, to the Rockets. A bunch of people got traded on deadline day. I don't remember where everybody went, but I mean, they're clearly tanking, taking the divisional little tip of the hat to Sam Hinkie, and just continuing the tradition of tanking in the Atlantic Division.
Thanks. So before we get out of here, we definitely have to talk about Chris Bosh, and his blood clots in the lungs. Serious matter. Where did this come from? How did it pop up? The Miami Heat have reportedly shut him down for the remainder of the season, so he will miss the rest of the season and the playoffs. Christina, get healthy, get well soon. From War Room Sports and thesportskings.com, we wish you the best. But what happened here, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very serious situation. Obviously, the same thing actually happened to Mirza Teletovic for the Nets. I mean, his was actually more serious. I mean, I'm no medical expert, obviously, but his was potentially life-threatening if it wasn't discovered earlier. Whereas Chris Bosh, they said that they discovered it rather early. It's a huge blow. It's a huge blow for the Heat, and I'm curious. It's funny as spectators and even media. You bypass all the things that athletes go through. Like, we just so casually say, oh yeah, fellow had knee surgery, not knowing that surgery is a very serious thing, and obviously get well to the blueprint as well. But it's a very serious thing. It's no walk in the park. Like, you just go down for surgery. Obviously they have the best doctors in the world, on the planet operating on them because money is no expense. But that doesn't mean there's all kinds of complications.
No risk. Yeah, that doesn't mean it's without risk. Yeah. Yeah,
right. And these things do happen. These happen to everyday citizens, and I mean, athletes are not exempt. Obviously, the one thing that pops out is the Luol Deng situation. A couple years ago, where he was, almost died. In the hospital. So, it's a very serious thing, and obviously, we just hope Chris Bosh gets well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think it was a huge, huge, huge blow because, as we referenced earlier in this episode of Court Vision, um, Chris Bosh was a part of a paper five with Goran Dragic, Dwayne Wade, Luol Deng, Chris Bosh, and Hassan Whiteside. With Hassan Whiteside playing at the level he's playing at, the defensive pressure comes off of Chris Bosh, who's a mediocre defender. He's definitely not bad, but he's not great. But you want to, his talents are best utilized on the ball or on his man as opposed to rim protecting. And also, it takes some pressure off of him having to even really play defense at a high intensity. You can focus offensively. I was scared of the potential of that team. I think the only thing that would have held the Heat back with a healthy Chris Bosh is truly the bench. Because that starting five was, to me, that starting five was good enough to give the Cleveland Cavaliers a run for their money and beat them.
No.
Strong enough to put up way more points than the Bulls, even though the Bulls are a much improved offense with Pau Gasol. I was looking forward to seeing that team really do things and go far. And now I think that Chris Bosh is the cog in that wheel that prevents that from happening. So, this Bosh injury is big for what could have been, in my opinion. Andy, we got you back, or no, we didn't.
To be honest, you throw that Heat team with Bosh in like a 2-7 series with the Raptors. I would be surprised if they lost that series. I would call the Heat the favorite. I would think that if the Raptors win, that would be more of a surprise than the Heat winning. Too big, too talented, and then at the guard, I'm all for Kyle Lowry and the two guard that looks like a Raptor, DeMar DeRozan. I'm all for him. I love to watch him. He's like the mascot. He's the mascot and the starter all in one.
Yeah, he balls, but
double check.
I'm actually in respect to Dwayne Wade. I believe in a playoff situation, he can outduel DeMar DeRozan, and Goran Dragic can play Kyle Lowry to a standstill. They kind of wash each other out. So I give the advantage to the Miami backcourt in that series, the starters, and then in the front line, I don't even have to say anything. Hassan Whiteside, Chris Bosh, and Luol Deng is beating anything Toronto can put out there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I don't think Jonas Valanciunas is, I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's ready for. He's not there yet. He's not ready for that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not there yet.
Andy, are you officially back in the mix here?
I don't know what's going on, man. All I know is if you have Time Warner cable, you probably are a bad person. I feel right now.
You should jump off the roof. Shots fired at it. Cut the check though, Tom Warner. Cut the check.
Yeah,
cut the check.
Send me something. Send me a duffel bag.
I want to remember that.
You better send me a duffel bag or some napkin holders or something.
So, Andy, you're back in good time. You didn't miss anything. We were talking about Christina Bosch's blood clots, and then Melo shutting it down. But Kobe met with Ahmad Rashad, and in old head Kobe fashion, grumpy Kobe, gave us a pretty candid and entertaining interview in which, some of the quotables includes he's looking to have a resurgence like the San Antonio Spurs. You're looking at the Spurs, you always think they're ready to be too old and go away and die and curl up, and they come back and reinvent themselves, and Pop wins another chip. Kobe's looking to experience that, which I think also was a positive shout out to Pop from Kobe. He said some other things. He said, Shaq knew what it was. To that response, to that end, Phil came out and said Shaq the clown is the reason they didn't win more than 3. But Kobe said Shaq wasn't serious enough, didn't really work hard. Said if you want the ball, work hard. If you don't want the ball, I got the ball, and I'm shooting it. And he shot it. So, Andy, what were your thoughts and impressions on the interview?
I think Shaq was good enough to be the best player on that team a couple times. The interview's funny. I really like the parts where Kobe says something along the lines of he'll kill himself to come back, and he's just another guy like everybody else. And the things like you were talking about at the Spurs of the comeback, and he said he just did 9 months of rehab, And, you know, I do like the fight in the old dog. I think it's commendable. But realistically, if I'm a betting man and this is Las Vegas, I don't know. Can he do it? Can he keep doing this over and over and over again?
Is it time to go, or are we cool with seeing another Kobe comes back?
I'm absolutely cool. I'm cool with I'm always on the cool train with all these kind of guys. I loved watching, you know, even when Allen Iverson was like just completely gone and he just like wanted to do anything. Like I just want to see Allen Iverson play in the Chinese Basketball League. I don't care. I just want to watch him play.
Wow.
So you love watching the greats play.
We all know that in DC.
All the greats never know when to go. I mean you can just go back to the lineage of almost every great player retires too late. But you know, I just love watching that competitive nature. I have a few thoughts about this. I think Kobe makes a great point about Shaq, and it's one of the hypocritical things about Shaq in general. When he makes fun of or really insults Dwight Howard, you know, almost at every chance he gets. Meanwhile, Shaq was Dwight Howard when he played. I mean, Shaq was always silly, always, you know, making jokes. A lot of people questioned Shaq's work ethic. And even though Shaq was a great player, I think his legacy is always he could have been so much better. You know, he could have done so much more if he would have just taken that 4-year stint. It might have been more than 4 years where he was just the most dominant player in the league. That could have been 8 years. It could have been 9 years. But, you know, because of because of his work ethic and just certain things in his career and maybe being petty, you know, with Kobe and whatever and having personality issues, his career really didn't turn out the way it should have been. He could have been the all-time great, literally the all-time great. So I think that's a great point by Kobe. I love the the attitude and just the old man get off my lawn. But also, more importantly, as I said last show, that I thought that Kobe was going to leave the Lakers and go and play a bench role somewhere for a contender to try and win his 6th ring. And this interview, you know, from these quotes, it just makes me feel like I'm definitely sticking to that. I think he'll do whatever it takes because obviously if he's talking like this, he knows that the Lakers aren't 2 years away from a championship. They're not 2 years away from a resurgent Kobe meaning anything. So I mean, I think his eye really is on a prize, on the championship ring.
That's my biggest issue with all of this, and I, you know, Kobe is a largely polarizing figure. So you either land on one end of the spectrum or the other. So I try and bring balance to the force. You know, where I'm not a huge Kobe fan, but I also respect and love the game of basketball enough to give him his due and honor and respect for what he's accomplished and what he means to the game. And in a vacuum, I don't want to see Kobe leave because I don't feel that you should leave if you're able to put up 24, 25 points a game. Like, there are guys that we celebrate, that we get excited about, and that's what they average. Like, they average 24 to 26 a game. When fully healthy, at damn near a middle-aged man, he was putting up 27 a game. Why leave that? Why? Then I look at context, and I look at the circumstance. Jim Buss is an expletive that I will not use on this show, and I love it as a Sixers fan because I don't want the Lakers to win, that organization to have any success. I don't want them to win another thing, but he's an expletive as a meddling owner, and he's got a damned good GM in Mitch Kupchak out there that he won't allow to do his job. Kobe, you're coming back to play with Ronnie Price, Carlos Boozer.
Yeah.
Some tall dude.
We also don't keep going. I watched the Nets versus the Lakers. The Lakers starting lineup is horrific. Ed Davis is the best player on the Lakers right now. And it's not even close. He's the best player on the Lakers, hands down.
It's a Sixers lineup right now.
And it's a Sixers lineup. It is. And so I don't think it's fair because no matter what Kobe says to you, no matter what he says to me, no matter what he says to the rest of the world, when Kobe gets on a basketball court, dude is going to try and win these games. And to him, winning is not passing, it's shooting more. If I'm missing, I've got to shoot more. that's too much stress on his body at this age. He needs a roster where he can be efficient, because he can efficiently get 25. He doesn't have to, but with that roster, dude had to put up 40 shots to get 20, and that's just not. I don't want to see that. I don't mind seeing Kobe come back, but I don't want to see that.
Yeah, I would, absolutely just love to see, and I know it's maybe because I want to be right, but I would love to see Kobe go to the Spurs. Imagine a Kobe on the Cavaliers playing with LeBron James, coming off the bench, playing 20 minutes a game, just doing Kobe things for 20 minutes with him and LeBron on the floor. I want to see that. I want that to happen.
He would be like, look at me. I'm your boss now. Like that's how it would be with LeBron.
I'm the captain now. Yo, he punks LeBron at every chance he gets. That would be interesting. But,
Kobe's a different guy, though, and I don't want to see him be like the old creepy guy that's still hanging out at the club when he's 35. I mean, I don't know if I want that for Kobe. Hate the guy, I like the guy. I just nobody.
No. I hear you, Andy, and it's different when the production isn't there. When the production isn't there and guys are holding on, it's like, oh man. But it's almost like his detractors.
Shout out to Patrick Ewing.
Shout out to Hakeem Olajuwon. It's almost like
so many guys you could shout out.
His detractors try and paint this picture like he's putting up, 9 points a game on 12 shots. And that's just really not the case. When you compare him, per 36 minutes, when healthy, he's as productive as any other two guard in the world. So it's like, all right, well, keep going.
Right,
but you cannot do it.
Like you're saying, roster. he's playing with these bums. I mean, to put it, just imagine if you put talent around him, people that can actually make him a better player as well.
Yo, if I was Kobe in that locker room, I wouldn't even speak to those dudes. I would be like, yo,
he probably doesn't.
Yo, go talk to my interpreter and tell him what you and I'll.
Funny thing is Kobe actually did that, and shout out to Smush Parker. We've heard
I can't talk to Smush.
I ain't gonna follow you on social media.
You gotta earn my follow.
So that's the thing. I think we're all saying what Frank already said. I think he has to go to another team for this to to not be tragic. Because if he stays in LA, there's no way they can rebuild in time for him to play productive basketball.
Is anybody going to take that $28 million next year, though? Is anybody going to do that?
I mean, even just potentially, this is just complete hypothetical. He could always get bought out. I mean, we've seen Amari Stoudemire was owed $20 million this season. He just got bought out, so there's no reason why Kobe couldn't do the same thing.
28.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Oh man, viewers, it's been fun. We've enjoyed it. We definitely got to get out of here. Andy, Frank, whichever one of you want to let them know, do your commercial, please.
Get it, Flint.
Head on over to www.sports-kings.com. Look us up for hoops. It's Pass the Pill. You can see my little thing over here somewhere. Then my Time Warner doesn't work. Blame them.
Now, on behalf of the Sports Kings and War Room Sports, most of the times the guys don't let me do this because I get long-winded, I get excited, I talk to the people, I get all up in your grill. But warroomsports.com, warroomsportstv.com to catch this and many, many, many other episodes of Court Vision, Field Vision, Inside the War Room, A Few Good Minutes, OBR, Operation Battle Rap, where you can catch Frank. We thank you for your viewage. And, of course, we got to say, don't accept mediocrity. Be steadfast in your war against ignorance. And we'll see you chumps on top.
All first verse.
It's the War Room with 5 nights at the round table. 5 Philly guys, the